Welcome to Beyond the Firewall, the business bitecast, where tech and business collide. Get expert insights, real-world strategies, and the latest trends in bite-sized episodes. Stay ahead, stay secure, and explore what's beyond the firewall. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for listening to another episode of Beyond the Firewall, where we breach and show you the differences between technology and business. We're here today again with one of the best industry leaders, Jeff Sage from Dropbox, and we're really excited to have him back, talk about more about Dropbox and other solutions. Jeff, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me back. It's always good to have some conversation around new stuff with you.
Yes, always. And I know you've been traveling lately, if I'm not mistaken. Personal pleasure.
Yeah,
business.
I feel like Q4, everybody's traveling, right? Everybody's trying to get in their last minute road shows or last minute conventions. But yeah, convention season, right? So starts to tail off, right, as we get into December. So
yeah, it's been nuts. I've been in Texas now twice. I was in Dallas, I was in Houston, and it was all tech shows and tech conferences. It's great to see that the conference world is back in action and in full swing. I think I attended about 5 or 6 conferences, and I have one more starting tomorrow on AI with Intel. So that should be interesting and exciting all at the same time.
yeah,
So
sure.
yeah, it's good. Finally, it's over. Looking forward to the break.
Yeah.
It's great to get all that information hammered to you, but at the same time, you're like, okay, when can I distill it and relax and digest everything that's been served to me? So yeah.
I think the conventions. So for us, like when I go to a convention too, like I try to and again, I think we'll probably do some of that here. So I guess it's a good lead in, but try to break it off into little bite-sized chunks, right? So because it's a lot for you guys as partners and for customers to come to convention and have to learn like 50 different things. So we try to break it out into like those little bite-sized, right, chunks.
For sure. For sure. And you know what? It's interesting you said that. It's a good segue is, when we look at, everything that we do as a business for companies and servicing businesses across Canada and the US now, it's hard to kind of dissect and figure out what is the best solution and the best package. And, speaking about Dropbox, you guys have a dozen plus products to the portfolio. Sometimes, challenging to distill it all, but I think having sort of segments presented is a key factor in making people understand everything that is out there, so that it's in digestible bites. And part of what we're going to be talking about today, if I'm not mistaken, is about, some of the Dropbox products. And I'd like to sort of talk to you about that. And what do you see as today a hidden gem or sort of a key product that, you think everybody should be aware of these days?
Yeah, I think it's a good point because I think what happens with Dropbox is, and this happens at conventions, it happens in the airport, right? Most people think of Dropbox as just Dropbox, right? File sync and share storage. They don't think about a portfolio of product that actually Dropbox has. And we actually do really have a really good kind of robust portfolio as far as getting things done the way you want to get them done. Everything from, like we talked about, the AI product before to our standard blocking and tackling, file sync and share in the cloud. The one that I kind of really wanted to talk to you a little bit about today from a hidden gem perspective is which I don't think a lot of people think of us for, is what we call Dropbox Sign, which was originally HelloSign that we purchased a couple of years back. So I wanted to kind of just run through some of those and some of those like kind of those golden nuggets as far as like what makes sense and why people would choose Dropbox Sign over somebody else or one of our competitors. So like I can go through some of those with you a little bit here.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think overall the digital signature world is picking up, right? At the end of the day, I don't think I've sent out a piece of paper as a physical paper to say, please sign this and send it back to me in a physical piece of paper with a signature, scan PDF, and, or get a fax. I don't remember the last time I got a signed contract vis-a-vis a fax. I think it's been a good 5 years now since we disabled that feature. companies are looking for that, and so it's interesting that Dropbox bought a product and has refined that product and now is called Dropbox Sign. Well, why don't talk to me a little bit more about where that stands today and how that's evolved.
Sure. So what I want to do is kind of break it out into five, like five golden type pieces or five golden pathways as far as why people would choose Sign. I think the first one is really key because it speaks to like what we try to focus our product on completely across all products, which is the first kind of piece is the user friendly interface, right? There's nothing worse than actually getting into a product and saying, man, I really want to use this product. And then you can't figure it out, right? Or it's very challenging to set it up to utilize. The Dropbox Sign product is a pretty straightforward interface. Where you can create, send, and sign without extensive training or technical knowledge. So, very simplistic, you can actually pull in any file that you want, including pictures, right? So, if there's a PDF file or not just a contract, because I think what a lot of people think about is when you need something signed, they think of a long, contract, right? A lot of times people will actually just need pictures initialed or some kind of other document or picture or file that just needs a signature or a little initial on it. You can actually create those documents right in Dropbox Sign. So that's kind of the first phase is our user-friendly interface. Really easy to get up and running on Sign. Takes less than 24 hours. Cases we have people that are actually just getting access and going right off to the races within an hour or two, right? So you can get into digital signage like you're talking about, Erez. Even if you aren't familiar with digital signatures, you can get into it pretty quickly with Dropbox Sign. Okay, so that's the
Yeah, I
first one.
think I think that was interesting. I didn't know that you can do that on a photo, but it completely makes sense for like a, insurance company or a construction company where they're renovating a door, or, an insurance company taking a photo of a claim, and here's the picture of a car or whatever it is, and please verify that this is what we're repairing, sign here, and can drag and drop the picture right into your platform and then put a signature field of acceptance of the image that's being discussed.
Yeah, and it's the user interface is core to Dropbox. We want people to,
Is that where you're looking at it?
yeah, I mean, you want people to user friendly interface is like very core to Dropbox, right? Well, you don't want people to have to, and I think that's the big thing with us is, and it's top notch. Whenever we look at new products or we look at integrating a new product into Dropbox, the core is user friendly. We don't want any frustration utilizing our product. So we want all those integrations to happen. So we don't want it to just be thinking about the same thing around workflow, right? From a user friendly perspective, we don't want people to have to stop and think about utilizing. Can I use Dropbox Sign with a photo or some other document? It just works. So it's there and able to be utilized from a user friendly perspective. So I think that's number one for us is the interface part of it. Secondarily, the next big thing for us is integration. So, not just integration with our own core product in Dropbox Business, but also other tools. So, I think it's also key to remember that Dropbox Sign, from a standpoint of a product perspective, is this product does not need to be utilized with Dropbox storage. You can use other storage facilities, right? So you can use Google, you can use Drive. I integrate with Slack, I integrate with Zapier, and it's really to increase like the workflow efficiency. So it's not to break the workflow. We obviously would prefer that you use Dropbox from a storage perspective, but also we understand that people don't use exclusively Dropbox from a workflow, even getting signatures done. So I think that's key as well, just the amount of integrations. So those are our like, even though this is a separate product, those are our two core keys with Dropbox is the interface and does it integrate with multiple things. I think those are key from all of our products.
And I find that really interesting how you guys really keep on working on the APIs with third party plugins, because most people don't realize and they assume that, if we're going to be using the Dropbox stack, it is Dropbox as an island, but it's not. It really ties in well across the board for almost every other third party platform out there.
It does. And we have, again, we're always working on integrations. They're always looking to push the envelope. We're always working with you guys also from a partner perspective of like, hey, what are you hearing from your customers? What do they want this product to integrate with? and we take that back to our product marketing side as well. So I think we're always willing to listen as far as integrations go. So I think that's a big one. As we work through like these five kind of big bullets for us, I think another big one that I think about when I think about Dropbox Sign is customizable workflows. So users, right, can create tailored workflows for document signing. And that includes templates for frequently used documents. That includes the ability to set signing order for multiple signers. So streamlining the process, right? So think about that if like Erez, you have a customer that needs signature, you can actually assign it so that, let's say we were going to assign a signature to Caitlin. Caitlin comes back to us and says she's not the right signer. We can change that on the fly. We can also grant Caitlin access so that she can change and reassign it to somebody else. So that if we're not sure that Caitlin's the signer, we can actually put a checkbox in there where she can reassign the order or reassign the person. So you can do a lot of that on the fly as far as customizable workflows. The template piece, we find out that that's a big one for a lot of people. And customizing templates. So think about this. The easiest way to think about it is from like a school district, for instance. You got an HR person at the end of the year. They have to send out 100 different documents. A lot of it is the same, but they have to pull in custom fields. So maybe there's an address field, or maybe there's a salary conversation, or maybe it's a salary type of messaging with signature. You can actually set up a text file to actually pull customized fields out of a different document and put it in there so that the whole field, so the whole document might be the same, but those customizable fields change. So from a customizable workflow, that really works, and it's really easy to set up, right, from a user interface perspective too.
So if you're sending out a policy update or whatever, not, you need to send that out as a mass mailer, but you're expecting some sort of an acknowledgement, not just as an announcement. I can send it out through this platform and request a signature or some sort of an acceptance using the platform.
Correct.
Okay, so that's massive because now you're expanding what the conventional use of some of the other DocuSign and other sort of sign platforms where the conventional use is around agreements and contracts. Here, you can send out a monthly newsletter or some sort of an announcement letter stating we're updating our terms and conditions, privacy, and we need you to accept our new privacy policy of our organization. And here's a method for you to distribute it and get an acceptance or an acknowledgement with tracking.
Yeah. And from a customizable standpoint, if you're using a template to do that, you can make it look less robotic by including custom fields. So custom
Right.
fields that actually pull in so that it looks more like a one-to-one message versus just a standard template out the door.
Wow. Yeah,
So
and I can say that internally when I've used the platform, I found it very user friendly in that regard. Being able to create repositories of documents, and because for a while we were using it for our customer contracts, right? But that was very much what you would call boilerplate. So we have, our MSA, or we have our term sheet that we would send out with the customer's name on it, and that was an easy one. But this is great in respect to being able to send out those mass announcements and being able to customize them so that they're tailored to the individual.
yeah, we also, from a template standpoint, we bought another company a year or two back as well, which has hundreds of templates that actually are built into Sign as well. So you don't have to create your own template. You can actually look for templates within Dropbox Sign, and that comes with the actual licensing. So it's not an
Wow.
add-on piece. You don't buy. Um, a lot of companies will actually go out to like what's a big one for legal, for instance, like Nolo, right? Nolo Press, and they'll buy documents or templates, download those, put them into a signature document or a PDF to recreate it. That's actually in Dropbox Sign as well. So there's a set number of templates that are in there as well, so that you can pull from a repository.
Huge value, huge value there. I like
Right.
that.
Yeah. Um, I think the fourth thing really that I kind of think about too is security and compliance. Obviously, that's a big one with a lot of companies today. How secure is it? How compliant is it? So, Dropbox Sign, right? All of the signatures that you get in Dropbox Sign are admissible in court. We track every page of the document, so it gets a unique identifier. So that's why it's admissible in every court. We actually work with laws such as eSign and UETA, and we're providing legally binding solution there so that, again, it stands up in the court of law. It's all admissible. We track it by IP addresses. So you don't get somebody that says, "Oh, I never saw that," or "That wasn't me that signed it." You can actually pull it up and be like, "That's your IP address, correct?" So it makes it a very secure option. We do, just like we do with Dropbox, we do at rest and in transit. Um, and I think it's 256-bit encryption in transit and at rest. So, so you get the security option as well. And that's built into the product also. That's not a buy an extra feature. But yeah, from a security standpoint, I think we're there as well. I think the fifth one, and I do have a bonus one also at the end. The fifth one is a like mobile accessibility. Um, a lot of times people don't, from a signature perspective, you might need something really quick. So we, as a company for Dropbox Sign, we offer it as a mobile signature as well. So that allows users to send and sign documents on the go. It enhances the convenience and flexibility that way, especially when you're talking about remote workers that are on site or they got to, like you were giving the example too, like, hey, a builder or construction guy sends it to somebody and he's like, I need you to sign off on these like windows that I'm going to order today. I'm not at the computer. I'm actually at this manufacturer at this place looking at windows. Cool. I'll push it to your phone. So they can actually sign it on the phone as well. So, so that's it has that availability. Again, there's no extra charge for mobile access. It's just in the product, right? It's built right into the price points. So
Right. And that platform is agnostic between Android and iOS today. So you got an Android tablet, you got an iPad, you got a mobile phone. You're pretty much on any mobile app that's got that functionality built into it, which is massive because I think virtually every construction and insurance company, surveyors, there's a whole slew of industries now that have mobilized their sales team and their service team onto some sort of a tablet. And so being able to cross platform that from a full desktop to a mobile device is essential today.
yeah, absolutely. Has to be. It has to be there. In fact, we have a lot of companies. That's the first thing they ask us about is mobile accessibility. So, is it an upcharge? Do you charge me extra? Right, that kind of thing. I think as a bonus piece, which is something that a lot of people don't think about, when you think about signature product, when you're agreeing to signatures or going with an organization or manufacturer, I think the key thing to remember is are they going to charge you for your documents if you ever leave? So your signature product that you're choosing, you need to be asking the questions of if I determine in a year or 2 years or 3 years or at the end of my contract, if I don't want to be part of your particular product any longer, is there a fee to actually get my documents and move them to something else? Right. I think that's a key question to be asking orgs. We, in particular, do not charge for moving your documents out of Dropbox Sign. There's no ransomware. There's no like fee to move it. We actually sell this product. We sell it on a yearly basis. We give options to customers as well. As again, talking about that user availability. You can buy unlimited envelopes, what we call envelopes. So think about, you're sending an envelope out for Christmas cards, right? One by one by one. Or you can actually pick the quantity that you want. So you can pick a quantity of envelopes or quantity of signatures that you want as well. And again, those are 12-month cycles, right? Because we have to, right? But there's no way to kind of really do it month to month based on cycles and based on how many envelopes you do. And then with us, you can always go up, you can't go down, right? Obviously, right? You buy 6,000 envelopes, right? You can go up, you can't come down off the 6,000. But I think it's critical to remember to ask that question of your signature product.
Yeah, and I was actually going to ask because I remember you mentioning just now about the unlimited option. I think that that's a huge thing for a lot of orgs because, when you're starting into this thing, of moving towards a signature platform. The conventional methodology by most of the main carriers out there are consumption based
Hmm.
on top of the base fee. And if you're not where you're at, or you have no idea where you're at, the consumption rate can be pretty expensive, actually, usually more than the product in itself,
Hmm.
you know. And the fact that you guys even have multiple sort of subscription offerings, and then, you guys get to pool, use across user base, you have a lot more flexibility on how you do your licensing. You want to expand on that, on how that works with either small organizations and larger ones?
Yeah. From an unlimited standpoint, you start with 3 users, right? That's our minimum, to start with 3 users. You can spread those. If you do an unlimited envelope count, you can spread that unlimited across those 3 users. If you buy 6,000 signatures, you still spread it out among the users. It's not one by one, right? So I don't assign Erez 600 envelopes and then, right, and then Jeff another 600. It's a pooled amount of envelopes, pooled amount of signatures. Okay, so there's that part as far as the licensing goes. Like you said, it provides a lot of flexibility as far as it even works that way. Like, let me back up for a second. It even works that way, like templates. A lot of our competitors will limit the amount of templates that each user can actually take advantage of. That's not the case with Dropbox. With Signature, you're out the door. You do whatever templates you want to utilize. So I think we have a lot of flexibility as compared to some of the others as far as how you want to actually pay for the licensing, or to your even point of, we see a lot of signature people not even knowing how many envelopes they're going to need to send out in a year. So having that unlimited option also helps, because we also recommend, like, look, start with a little bit more. That way, then you don't run out, right? At the end of the year, reevaluate, right? Work with your team, Erez, and like reevaluate, what did the workflow look like? How many signatures did we actually use? What feature sets did we use? And kind of talk to us and talk with you to actually figure out what the best licensing is moving forward for them as far as signature goes.
Yeah, no, that's always been the big selling feature about using Dropbox, is the flexibility across all the products, right? Like when you look at your licensing convention for virtually all of your product stack, it has the most granular flexibility in, call it cloud file sync, share. You can have different functions in different departments, because we know that if you're going to roll this out in a company, you may have a marketing division that wants your marketing features, you may have an accounting legal division and sales division that's going to want your signature division, even certain service division, they're going to want those features, but marketing may not need it as much. So you have the ability to assign licenses, user licenses, and provide that flexibility where, it's not an all or nothing. It's not a have to buy this canned bundle. It's very granular, gives the customer the most flexibility, and maximizes the return on investment there, which is one of the reasons why MIT's been representing you guys for so many years, because customers just love that main key feature. And so, speaking about getting into it, and I almost want to look at it from a existing company out there that's using a platform, and I'm looking at companies out there that rules are changing today, uh, that are looking at getting out of pen and paper. Where do you get started? And if you're so, I'm going to ask you a two-part question. First question is, how do you evaluate, and where do you get started on using a Dropbox Sign technology? And phase two would be is, hey, I've been doing this for several years with one of your major competitors, and we want to sit down and figure out, does it make sense to move, and what would that journey look like if we were to evaluate it? So it's a two-part question.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know how I mean, we've been working together for a long time, Erez. The way that I like to approach technology, and I think that's why we align pretty well on this stuff, is I like to have a really open conversation with the customer about what workflows are you currently working on that require signature or that may require signature, right? To kind of get the wheels spinning a little bit. What are the roadblocks that you have with getting those signatures done, either in a digital environment or that you may not even have thought about digital environment yet as far as signatures go? You know, would it benefit their business to actually get those signatures back in a more timely manner, and really think about deep diving into the actual workflow itself. I always find that it's easier to sell or easier to digest, like wanting to buy something, if you understand actually what the workflow looks like. If you don't understand that, I think that's like the biggest mistake that I think manufacturers make and our partnerships make, is not understanding what that actual workflow looks like for them. And I think that's the starting point, right? How do you get into it? It's really discovering your workflow. So,
Okay.
first phase of your question. The second phase is, if you're already using one of our competitors today, I would ask you to just look at your competitor, what the pricing models look like, how long they have you locked into an agreement. And again, what does it look like if you ever decide that for any reason you don't like the practices of a current manufacturer, or they change a feature on you that they're now upcharging for that you had before? If you decide to leave, what does that pricing look like? What does the pricing model look like to get your documents out of a competitor? Um, Even if you're not looking at a new product right now, it's worth looking at that contract to see if it makes sense right down the road if you ever decide to change. Okay. Um, I think those are key. I think the other piece is looking at custom fields and templates, right? That's a big one for us too, as far as our competitors versus us. And then I think just in general, like kind of the same thing, like looking at workflows and working on your integrations. What integrations does your current signature product have versus what Dropbox is capable of doing?
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. And I think that on my note on that is a lot of companies set it and forget it. There's a bit of complacency around that. One of the things that we do with all of our vendors is we sit down every so often, especially closer to the contract renewal, is sit down and evaluate, are there newer features? Are there better functionalities? Are there systems improvements that are available elsewhere before we renew that contract? Because, you know, one of our main vendors right now that we spend oodles of money for, there are new competitors out there that do AI functionality. They have, better integration with some of the platforms that you talked about, Slack and Teams, and they've got a little button right within Teams, so I don't actually have to get in and out of my day to day. Because I'm a Microsoft guy. Like we love Google as well, but at the end of the day, we had to make a choice. We're either going to go Google or Microsoft. All the backend systems that we worked with Google didn't work well. It worked well with Microsoft. So my ecosystem is Microsoft, and being able to not have to jump out of Microsoft Teams, and some platforms now have Teams buttons, and so like I just love that, and I drink that Kool-Aid all day long now because I have one ecosystem that I can work out of, and my staff are happier. And we've switched vendors, price the same. It was a dollar for dollar on the actual subscription, but the functionality was there, and we were able to get 20-30% efficiency with our staff, not having to change panes of glass, and looking at integrations like that, which are huge savings that are usually not always thought of when the finance team or certain departments are looking at some of these renewals. They're just assuming, okay, it works, let's just not change it, we're gonna just click reset and go for another 1 to 3 year term agreement. So I challenge almost everybody, especially in this type of climate, where people are trying to figure out what their next moves are with when it comes to AI, and some other budgetary constraints and knowledge and whatever not. I always find that, now is sort of the time that if your agreement is up for renewal, or you're even thinking about it in the next 12 months, like see what your vendors were offering you today, see what the functionality is, how it impacts your business, and then even if you don't pull the trigger on making a shift, at least you can understand what's out there as part of a due diligence and look at something like a Dropbox Sign to see how that stacks up to some of the, call it, predominant players on the market. And you'd be very surprised. I find most people are quite surprised on what they see once they take a look at the technology that Dropbox has to offer.
I think I think to your point too, like I think, well, let me say this. So I think what happens too is it's hard to, I get it. It's hard to switch off of something you already have. It's very challenging, right? It's the unknown of like, will this be worse or will it be better? right? So I think that a lot of times what we try to do with people and with customers, and this is something to think about too, that customers that already have a signature product is look at your teams, look at what they're up to and what they're doing currently, and then maybe the possibility of is maybe Dropbox is a better option for finance. Dropbox Sign, right? It's a better option for finance or a better option for sales based on template type pieces or custom fields or the integration piece that we might have that another person doesn't. It doesn't mean that we need a full rollout of your signature product within your customers. Again, it goes back to what's the best workflow that works for each of your departments, not the overarching whole ball, right? It doesn't need to be the whole ball. It could be just a particular branch of where you're at.
Yep, 100%. And there's a granular. You guys also offer POCs. So, at the end of the day, we did a POC with a major corporation here in Canada that they were keen on trying out the technology. We were able to give them a 30, 60-day trial on the platform for that department. They were able to run that POC. There was great success in that aspect, and then they've been running with that platform now for 2, 3 years now, and they're super happy. And that's a big case for us as well. I find that knowledge and transfer is a big one. There's always that fear factor. I think the other thing that I find that's happening today in that conversation piece is also, I call it brand slash software creep.
Mm.
So companies are buying now multitudes of subscriptions. And so when we look at it, oh, I've got a feature here, I got a feature there. And so what's happening now is there's a lot of companies out there that are selling nuggets of solution stacks, and companies are buying onto one or two features within those product suites. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to get customers to realize is that, there's several video conferencing platforms out there. You already have most likely one in your ecosystem. If you're on Google or Microsoft, do you need the two, three other ones, right? Like WebEx or
Hmm.
whatever not. There's a compelling reason to do so. I understand that completely. There's a market and a place for those products out there, but we see a lot of companies now that have bought, several products out there in signature platforms, because for this client, they only recognize this particular signature platform, and this one is using this signature platform. And so being able to sort of consolidate that and have less subscription management, the finance teams and the CFOs today are thrilled when they actually have to deal with less subscriptions and less contracts and be able to consolidate all that into fewer invoices and fewer subscription managements.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then you have buying leverage, right? At the end of the day, if you think about it, if I came to you and said, well, we're going to bring in, the classic product, the signature product, maybe a few of the other products like Dash and a few of the other platforms that you have, can you give me a better deal? Well, Dropbox has bundles,
Hmm.
right? At the end of the day, you're going to save money now because you're buying a bigger pool. Whereas if you do granular buying, it's not as much of a compelling reason for the vendors to give you a better deal.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I mean, if we have customers that are already using Dropbox, right, and then they want to add additional things, I mean, there's always an option to get some better price points based on how much of the suite that you're buying.
yeah, for sure. For sure. And that's always been my kind of conversation I have with customers is try to, minimize that software spread. We've got sophisticated software packages now just to help companies. Basically, we're talking companies with north of $50,000 a year, if not north of $100,000 a year in subscriptions, to help them manage all the licenses that they do, because it's not sitting in their back office anymore. It's all in the cloud. So
Yeah.
to manage all those subscriptions is a full-time job if you don't have a platform to use. And so we have that today, and we're just trying to help companies by identifying that and consolidating it. So it's definitely a conversation as part of the value proposition of looking at that consolidation. Any other sort of tips or tricks or anything else that you think that we would want to let the audience know as a sort of final remarks?
I think the final remarks I would have is it's not geez, how do we say this? It's not the sexiest thing to like look at, right? From a product perspective, right? Most people are looking at storage and right computers and like how input and that kind of thing. But if you think about the people that actually have to create and do all of the signatures and all the cycles within your company, it's big. All right. It's a big business. It's a lot for a person to trying to break off from even the HR or sales perspective. So like give it a shot. Maybe it's not being utilized in the customer today, but it is something that actually can be utilized, especially even if you have end of year budget, because you can get into signature product pretty cheap.
Yes.
And we can have you up and running within 24, 48 hours, easy. And we can work with you, Erez, and setting up one-to-one conversations as far as getting that customer set up and running. But yeah,
You know,
that would
the
be my
one
ending
little
remarks.
tip that you didn't even say about, which just hit me when you started talking about costs. What is the cost to find a contract that went missing?
Mm, yeah.
I've heard horror stories that the cost for admin staff to go around and look for an agreement from 1 to 2 years ago or even 6 months ago because it was not properly filed
Hmm.
is astronomical in time effort. So being able to consolidate everything into one spot and not have to hunt for it and it's all indexed and searched for across every aspect of your business, I don't see a reason today a company not having an e-signature platform in its place.
Yeah. Well, again, I know we're wrapping up, but like even a good tie-in to the video that we did last time, right, with
Yeah.
AI in the Dash product. Think about then if you create Sign, right, and then the suite of product you add Dash. Now you're able to search for a signature instantaneous and get it back within seconds versus having to go look for it. So
Well, there's my point about the single pane of glass across your entire ecosystem, right? Not just collect the signatures, but know how to pull it up and find it when you need them. So, Jeff, I want to thank you for your time again. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, all of you that listen to our podcast. We're really happy to see you guys come back, and we're seeing our audience grow every week. Again, like and subscribe to our podcast if you want to see more of these things, or just message us if you have any particular subject or topic you want to hear about. We're always interested in knowing what the next big thing is. So, thank you again, Jeff and Dropbox, for being on our podcast. I'm looking forward to having you back again in the future and talking about the next gen of something. So if not, if I don't see you soon, Merry Christmas, have a happy holidays, and we'll see you soon.
same to you, Russ. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll see you soon.
Bye bye.